I don't encourage you to go back and watch like the first 2 episodes that are focused on just Tom or just Preston. They're great episodes. We should probably reshoot them because they're pretty scuffed. That was like when we were shooting on phones, and awesome. Preston had lost like 15 to 20 pounds, and now he looks freaking amazing. So.
Welcome to BrainStoke. I'm Tom Telford. We've got Preston Niederhauser in studio along with JT, who rarely, his voice recorded with us today is a Christmas miracle. We're super grateful to have him. He usually is hitting all the cool buttons behind the scenes. And today, debuting Kevin Day, the newest partner of BrainStoke. Welcome.
Thank you, man.
Look at Kevin's shirt. For anybody who is on our YouTube channel looking at this, that is a brain with bubble lettered Stoke, and that is a K-Day Racing original. Kevin designed that.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Tell us more about it, Kev.
This was, just in the onboarding process, the Stoke was at an all-time high. I found myself just carving away late nights, throwing little concepts and ideas and creativity together. And I was just like, I don't know, wanted to create fun little things. It's not entirely following the brand in any sort of way at this point, but it's one of those kitschy little things that's just like, hey, what can we put out there that's potentially just a fun graphic that says what we do.
Yeah.
Very true.
Mine's on order.
Yeah, is it?
Indeed.
Yeah. So, like Professor Day, point to the brain. Where exactly do the S's take place in the brain? Is it right where the S is right now?
I think it's in the front, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Does anybody know?
The frontal lobe.
So probably. If we go way, way back in our archives, when Liza Telford, LMFT, was in studio talking about the amygdala that she named. Does anybody remember the name? What does Liza Telford call her amygdala?
It was like a toaster. Didn't she talk about the toaster? Am I getting these mixed up? Liza's going to kill me.
Excuse me. Audrey.
Keep going.
It's a human name.
Yep.
Yeah. Annie. I don't know.
Shoot.
I've forgotten. That was like a year ago.
Almost a year.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
She's so smart. It was kind of above my head, but above my brain.
We need to text her.
Yeah.
Allie.
You'll have to text her, Jackson.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a cool shirt. That's awesome.
Yeah.
This whole year, 2023, was the kickoff year for BrainStoke. A lot has occurred this year. And if we really go back and think through why it all began, it started with Preston and I on a bike ride where all good things happen and inspiration comes out in the sun.
Indeed.
And in that dialogue, it was like, man, we need to do something about proactive mental health. What can we do? And things started to evolve, and we dove into this. What came out of it was a lot of cool things. And the BrainStoke podcast was part of it. And several episodes later, this will be our 30th episode. We kind of wanted to finish in a round robin together. But when BrainStoke was born, the idea was proactive mental health, helping people think through how they intentionally get the 5 S's into their lives, whether that be sleep, whether that be sweat, sun, sex, otherwise known as human touch, we're calling it. You can hug someone for 20 seconds and the same implications of an hour-long workout happens in your brain. So getting human touch, hug your kids, wives, loved ones, and something good happens in the brain. And the 5th one is Stoke, doing things that you're passionate about. This has been a full year of really cool things that we're passionate about, including Lotaja and, being outside, interacting with all these amazing people that we've had episodes with. And one of those was with Kevin. We interviewed Kevin, and that has evolved to now Kevin sitting on the couch today in this session joining BrainStoke, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think as soon as Kevin went out the door of that interview, you and I both looked at each other.
Yeah.
We're like, how do we make him part of this team?
Yeah.
Like, he fits, he belongs, he's got talents and skills. And anyway, so I think it's awesome that we've been able to make that come together.
For sure. It is something that in my kind of evolve entrepreneurship over the years, I've noticed that it all is connected through people, and nothing just happens on its own, and it's meeting people, great people who you can build something with. And that's what BrainStoke is all about, is continuing to build something that's cool. In 2024, there are lots of exciting things that we want to talk about on our episode today, and what we're trying to build and where we're going. But before we do that, I think it's always cool to look back, what's gone on this year. For 20-something years, I've had an year-end habit of a reflection. And this next week, I'm actually going out of town with my wife, and we'll go sit in the sun to intentionally reflect back for the first couple days on what good has happened. We talk about that every year. We do this together, reflect back, and then the next couple days, at the end of our trip, we talk about what are we planning, what are we going to do and accomplish this next year. And so I think it would be cool for us to just reflect back for, a gratitude exercise in what good has happened and what our highlights have been for the year. Obviously, Kevin is a huge highlight, a part of all of this. But JT, when you think about, what we have done in 2023, is there any one episode or experience that BrainStoke has brought you that you're like, man, this is one of my 5 S's. This is my Stoke.
Yeah. It was funny because, like, when we started out, like, I don't know, that would have been in January. Like, you came to me and you were like, okay, we want, like, me and Preston want to produce a podcast. Like, what do we need? And I kind of was going through, like, the list of, like, equipment you would need for deep learners of our podcast. I had a podcast in high school. And so I knew a little bit about just, like, what it took to kind of do this stuff. And it was fun to kind of get back into it and kind of, with now deeper pockets, to, like, go and, like, actually attack, like, equipment that I would want to use and want to produce with. And so that was fun. Being the producer on this for the last year now has been so fun. And then on top of that, to just see it grow and to see it come from a place that's, I would say, is, like, really genuine and really something that we believe in. Like, we all are doing our part and we're all doing that. And to see it grow in such a natural way, there's other podcasts. I was looking at our holistic analytics for the year, and we have, like, we're top 25 in podcasts right now for downloads. And that, just to see that growth over just 1 year is just so cool. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's listening, because we are just doing this out of, like, wanting to provide kind of awareness for this stuff, and also, like, put a different spin on the mental health piece, because it's something that's important to all of us. So to the audience, I want to say thank you for supporting us and doing that. That was just cool for me throughout the year to see growth. So
yeah, that is cool. When JT showed me recently about being in the top 25%, of podcasts, I was like, I've never really thought about it in terms of, like, how does it perform, in the podcast world. I was just, following the numbers of people who, tune in, and are people interested in hearing genuine stories of struggle and stoke. Yeah. And as long as we were kind of pulling those stories out of people in the episodes, our judge of, is that working, was, were we moved by sitting in the episodes, and not one time did we not finish and be like, this is really freaking cool.
Yeah.
Hearing people have the opportunity to give their own context to their own story. So often in the media and what goes on is that people get interviewed over 30 minutes, and then 30 seconds gets put in, and it's spun according to whatever the media's narrative is and what they want to put in.
Yeah, their agenda.
Yeah, and so it's cool to give people the option to sit down and say, how do I want to lead into my own story, tell the story, and then let it land. And JT has been masterful of not trying to over edit for some sort of narrative. And so even some of the feedback we get from people is like, well, that episode drug on and on and on. Yeah. And it was like, well, we could have cut it out, you know, but in the weirdest way for our audience who's listening to this, it's as powerful to let the people tell their own story at the speed and rate and length that they want and just let it occur, you know? And so that's been fun, you know, even though some of those longer episodes, people are like, oh, I just couldn't listen to it all. It's like, that's fine, you know, but what allowed those people in the moments to sit and be genuine was that we were never pressing them to get it out of them in a fast. Does that make sense? Like,
totally.
You can't just say, well, we got that 5 minutes that was a gem, and so we cut everything else out. Like, it allowed it to occur because we gave them the time and space to do it. And so that's been really rewarding, you know, to sit with people and to allow that to occur. What I love, JT, that you just described is how it began for you. You know, a lot of people think to a degree like that we intentionally sought out to become like this podcast who knew we had no idea what we were doing. You know, Preston and I were like, JT, hit play, we'll start talking, you know, and like it's so it to a degree, like we have to give credit to JT. Like we talk, we do this, but JT is the one who knows how to make it happen. He knows how to make the sausage behind the scenes, you know. And so, you know, as a partner, but also as a dad, I'm super proud of you. I think it's rad.
Thank
you. You have this incredible skill, you know, of being able to put it all together that allows the story to be told. It's cool.
Yeah. It's fun for me just because I get to sit in and like watch the episode, and then I get to go back and like relive like our favorite moments of some episodes. And it's honestly, I find it hard, especially like in the editing room, like on the cutting room floor. I don't try to cut a lot. Sometimes it's really like we talk about, like sometimes it is just going on, or we're just like dinking around, which is good. It kind of lightens the mood sometimes. But like the meat of most of the, I would say, art that we produce, like most of our medium is so, especially because it's audio for a lot of you listeners, there's not a lot of like, you can't really see the facial expressions and stuff. We record our stuff on video as well, but like being able to be in the room and be like, get the vibe of recording. I try and go back to like the vibe I was feeling of like the Creek Valley episode, where it was really like emotionally charged for most of that episode. And I think listening to it, you can still feel that. And so being able to feel that in those episodes, and a lot of our episodes are like that as well, of like trying to recreate that for our other listeners, like the emotion that we felt in those episodes is just so cool.
Yeah. I think what's been really neat is like we've gone into every episode, I've gone into some episodes a little apprehensive, wondering where's this going to go? Because we don't genuinely have a real agenda other than we want a story to be told.
Totally.
So we go in and we kind of feel our way through the episode, and when it wraps up, I know we look at each other like, that was amazing. That was an awesome story. And kind of what I've learned through all of this is we've now done 30 or so episodes, and I think every one of them is really unique, but everyone's got a really unique, cool story that needs to be told and heard. And that's what's been really refreshing about this and really enjoyable.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, Preston, because it's kind of fascinating what you hear, the feedback that you get, right? When you open yourself up to do something like this and to kind of have dialogue and put it out there, you know, in the world, you know, to a degree, we never really thought about like, oh, we're opening ourselves up. We just wanted to do something that was rewarding, you know? And yet I've had 2 or 3 times this year where someone said to me, in essence, hey, this guest, that's not true. Or they said this and my experience with him or her was not that. And just kind of interesting, right? In terms of like the feedback that you get from people. And in my head, it's been interesting to just hear those things occur and to kind of sit in a moment of like, I don't necessarily care what was true or not true. That's how that person, right? That's the story that they told, the way that they choose to tell it. And regardless of whether what's true or not true, in life, right? That's just how people are. That is their truth. That's their honest way of how they want to be perceived. And it's, in a way, it's very liberating to kind of sit with people and to allow them to tell that story the way that they want it to be told, right? And at times I'm kind of fascinated by watching and listening to other podcasts like Rich Roll or Lance Armstrong and We Do, and what these other podcasts of people who I look up to them because of what they're doing. And it doesn't necessarily true or not true. That is the narrative that they're telling. And there's something that is just raw about allowing people to tell their narrative, whatever that is. So there are a number of times as I kind of think back throughout the year where I've loved hearing people tell their narrative. And one of those that just still sticks out to me over and over, GT brought it up, but we ended up in Colorado City and we were interviewing, some men who are incredible. And to this day, our guests who were there, I think back often about who was in the room and the context around that. And the gentleman who, allowed us to be in that situation, Richard, I'm spacing his last name right now. I'm totally, how did I forget the name?
Bennett.
Yeah, that's right. Richard Bennett.
So
awesome guy.
Yeah, incredible guy. And, he's the head coach of the Creek Valley Condors, and, the context around taking healthcare and high school mountain bike racing back to Colorado City after years and years of this incredible suppression, in that community. And when we arrived, he took us on a tour of the town, and there's a feeling that exists there that I've never experienced in my life. 40-something years old, and it was just, I don't know how to describe it. We felt it right. It was unreal.
For sure.
Totally.
And yet we end up back at this clinic and we're sitting there with these people, and of all people who could have taken 2 hours to tell his narrative and his story and all that he's doing, and Richard said very little. When we asked him, he would speak, but he allowed the other men in the room that day to have the floor and to share their context and their narrative. And I think back to that situation over and over, like, here's a guy who could have taken the limelight for all that he's been doing, and yet he just wanted others to be able to tell their story of struggle and stoke. And that speaks volumes about, we mentioned it that day, but because of my faith background and narrative, I think about discipleship a lot. Richard stuck out to me about a disciple who is doing good in the world today, and he's not doing it for accolades. He's not doing it to be, famous on Instagram. That stuck out to me. That was a very cool moment, of just watching him do him.
Yeah, as a former coach, I found myself over the last year since we've met Richard, comparing myself to Richard, almost like what would Richard do? No, and I'm serious. Because he was so selfless. He is so selfless. And it helped me check myself and make sure I'm doing things for the right reasons. Because Richard is, and that was, I was just blown away by that whole weekend was awesome.
Yeah. Who sticks out to you when you look back on episodes or circumstance?
That one for sure does. Someone that I really got a kick out of meeting and interviewing was Preston Page.
Yeah, I was about to say Blind Man does it.
Blind Man does it. I loved his attitude.
Yeah.
And how funny he was. And he wasn't afraid to poke us and make fun of our lack of pickleball skills and whatever else. But it was really refreshing to meet him and to just see his attitude and his zest for life in what we think is really a debilitating challenge that he has, being blind.
Totally.
And I was way impressed.
Totally. Yeah. One of the cool things about that episode is that as we spoke to him and visited with him, I can still picture his siblings off on the floor down in the corner, just grinning, watching him talk. You could tell they just wanted to be a part of hearing him be him. Yeah. You know, and watching his mom, that was a special moment for sure. Yeah. Seeing you two sit on the couch right now, I'm having a flashback of, you know, the day that we have the Gibbons brothers, you know, in studio along with Ashley Hogue. Yeah. And what's interesting about BrainStoke and the journey, I mentioned this about people, right? That in the end, it's people who meet other people and what they bring to the table and the growth and expansion. Today, just an interesting thing for people to know in transparency. If you go to our Instagram account and you look at our followers this year, so we went from 0 to, 13,300. JT, what's the number?
Yeah, it's like 3,600 right now, or 13,600. So.
Yeah. So do we care? I don't know. Who knows what that really means? But what's interesting is that if you looked at our followers, they were like 200 to 300 until something occurred. Yeah. And so the day that we recorded with the Gibbons, we had a couple hundred followers. And then we record, JT, you know, takes the video clips and they go live. And a video clip goes absolutely berserk. Yeah. And the clip was, you know, Oliver Gibbons talking about the 5-10 rule as he described it. And he described his dad teaching their family that when they're 10 feet away from people, you smile. When you're 5 feet away from, you know, that person, you say hi. Yeah. That clip is like 20 seconds long. And to date, I think it's been viewed 2.6 million times. So cool. Here is a startup company, BrainStoke, that, you know, we record 29 episodes in a calendar year, 20 seconds really of a video clip about a 16-year-old awesome racer, you know, describing about being polite to other humans. Yeah. Smiling and saying hi to other humans is the very thing that, you know, I'm just going to say it. 99% of 13,000-something followers and 2.6 million views on a hit came from one high school kid talking about a rule of being kind. Yeah. Fascinating. You know, that has had such an impact. Have you guys thought more about that? I mean, Kev, have you thought about that? Someone who is, you know, heavily involved in social media and posting, and I mean, you're a guru at it. Have you thoughts on it?
Yeah, man. It's as I hear you guys talk about these conversations in person, it brings so much more meaning and depth to all of them that I've listened to, and to experience those moments and to not realize, you know, the impact that a comment like that will have on a community in the moment. But then you kind of see the validation of that. And that's not anything that you strategically put out there, which the beauty of this is that was a genuine, you know, rule that this family made and that this young man decided to stick by, and he decided to share it. And it probably doesn't mean anything more to him than really anybody else, where it's just this thing that he does, that he, you know, through good merit and just being a bright, happy person type of thing. Mm-hmm. And where the awesome part about this is that message was carried so far and so wide without the intent. JT didn't think that, like, oh, this is going to be our big hitter when I post this. It's going to go nuts, you know. And that's the beauty of, you know, the viral environment and the social media, where these little things that you don't intentionally curate make the biggest impact. And I think that just validates the authenticity of when people, like you say, you guys let me blab on way off topic on probably the questions that you asked, and I was just off in chit chat world, you know. But there's stuff that comes out of that's so right for this world and what this community needs to hear, and that's a perfect valid point of not curating a specific. We need to get this out of this person. Let's just talk.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that word curating, you know, that if you're trying too hard at something or if you're not being genuine, then it is, right? It's not real.
Right.
It's not hashtag be real at all, you know, and social media tends to be heavily curated. And, you know, when I think about that genuineness, and by the way, you are not blabbing. I still know, you know, I can still picture you describing, you know, going to nationals in Tahoe and you not having the day you wanted, and what disappointment really feels like. And that was so raw to hear you describe it. And yet I don't know that there's something more valuable for listeners to know that disappointment is part of the good hurt.
It is. It's
just part of it, you know?
Yeah.
And getting normalized in your life with just disappointment, and that if right, it becomes the fire for the next stuff, you know, which I think is why all of us love this metaphor of cycling, you know, skiing uphill, you know, getting out and sweating in the sun. There's natural capability to face disappointment all around us with coping, you know, in a positive way. As we look at now, you know, going into 2024 and what we're trying to do, BrainStoke is announcing, this is an announcement. Ready? Here comes, public.
Big announcement.
Big announcement.
Oh, boy.
BrainStoke is announcing our ambassador program. Yes. What that means is that BrainStoke is going to have, quote, sponsored stokers. I don't know necessarily what we're going to call them, but the ambassador program is just that. We are going to have athletes who are training and racing, and we have chosen 3 of them to date, and we'll announce their names in the upcoming month or so. But they will be training and racing any type of bike. They may be skiing, you know, a number of things of getting out, and that they will embody the 5 S's, you know, in documenting their stories of struggle and stoke. And so we're excited about that. Thoughts, Preston?
Well, I guess my question is just for the audience. What's the important role that an ambassador of BrainStoke has? What matters to us?
Yeah, what's interesting is we started thinking how cool it would be to have our own team, you know, and these were people who were coming together, you know, to train and compete and do these things. And although cycling, you know, is a huge emphasis of that, when we sat down and thought, ultimately, what do we want? It was almost anti-traditional team.
Yeah.
Do they need to stand on a podium to be on this? Do they have, you know, a race resume that shows that they kill it, you know, in any sort of cycling discipline? And the answer was no. You know, the goal was people who are driven to try to be, number one, genuine in telling their story and being real about the struggle and stoke of life. And so, yeah, results is very little to do with what we're trying to create in terms of a culture, but it is very much real about being genuine and trying, you know, facing the disappointments of life in a positive coping way, which is get outside, get in the sun, sweat, sleep, all of those things that we, you know, are trying to do. So I don't know. What other thoughts have you all had in terms of just if we're going to have a team of ambassadors who, you know, wear the BrainStoke, you know, branded gear, what else do they need to be and do?
They have to look good while they're doing it. And we know.
Is this a hot or not?
Kevin Day has created the hottest kits
oh, man.
to date.
And gear, yeah.
Yeah, literally on the heels of Kevin joining us, it was like, Kevin, we need you to create the coolest kits ever.
That's why we hired Kevin. We just don't know how to use like Photoshop.
He's actually Illustrator.
Yeah, Illustrator. Yeah.
Case in point.
I'm just kidding. I know how. Kevin's way better at it than I am.
No way.
So
You're good.
that's it. But yeah, it's gonna be sick. I'm excited.
Yeah. So team kits are on order, and over the next, I don't know, we'll probably call it by the end of February, the team store will be open, and people can actually go on and order their own kits, their own, apparel.
Rep the brand.
Yeah, rep the brand, right?
Yeah.
To a degree, it's kind of an interesting position to be in as a startup company when you do these kinds of things, because you hope that you have, some sort of brand, presence, in terms of what we're doing. And in the end, what we hope when listeners see that stuff come out, that as they consider wearing it, that what you're choosing to wear is apparel with a purpose. And the purpose is to drive some attention to proactive mental health. When you put on the kit, that you're saying, I'm thinking about going and doing something that is going to provide serotonin in my brain, and that is going to cause stoke. Stoke of the ability to face disappointment and struggle in our own lives. So if I today get on my bike in the sun and sweat, it's highly likely that tomorrow, which will bring disappointments and setbacks because life does, my ability to face them is significantly greater having done the S's yesterday. And so when you see the team store open up, when you think about $130 for bibs or a jersey or whatever, know that it's apparel with a purpose. And the purpose is to drive attention to your proactive mental health.
Very true.
Other thoughts on the ambassador program?
I'm excited to see what. So we've, as Tom mentioned, we've got three members that are going to participate that we'll announce shortly. But I'm excited to see what they share and what they post. None of us are professional posters. Kevin might be, but we're all learning, and it's just gonna be fun to watch them share their stories and what's important to them and what they think will resonate with others. And I look forward to learning more about those three guys. And I think it's gonna be what we hope to be a movement where others want to participate and be ambassadors and do the same thing and share the same positivity.
It's interesting that you say that, because when I pictured even these three, they're all men, that are starting the ambassador program. They're going to train. They're going to go to races. We will provide kits, apparel. We'll pay for races for them. One of the challenges that we, as an ownership, team at BrainStoke, have thought through is that we want to identify women and girls to be a part of the ambassador program. And that's incredibly important to us. We've talked about this offline repeatedly, and it's interesting because these three men who are starting, they want to train and race, and they want to do this, and we're excited for them to do that. One may think, our listeners may think, oh, do we need to train and race to be an ambassador? Absolutely not. In fact, when I think about who the best ambassadors would be for BrainStoke, they would be moms who have young kids, or they're in their middle age, or they may be grandmas, but they are women who are being proactively focused on mental health. Why women? Why even say that? Well, because our main sponsor, who is, Aspire Medical, the majority of consumers of mental health are women. The majority of the followers on Instagram for BrainStoke are women. And it just happens to be that in society, women tend to be more proactive and capable in asking for help. Men are stodgy and prideful and arrogant, and they can just do it on their own. And yet we know that if you look at the statistics that were released this year, some of the greatest challenging humans in our society today right now are middle-aged men who are struggling with the stresses of life. And so when you hear this as the public, we would love for women and girls to become ambassadors. We haven't chosen any. I have an idea of a few that I would love to approach, but reach out. If you want to just, have the kits and to train and race, or just be out and never race, whatever you want to do, but just consistently tell your story and post about being proactive in your mental health, we would love to have you.
If you're passionate about mental health, and you don't ride and you just like to be active, if you like to run, whatever. But no, I think we definitely we need women, especially in both populations. Like we want to create kind of a more positive culture around mental health for men, just because it's a population that doesn't talk about it as much, and like kind of as Tom said. And then a lot of women follow our stuff, and most of our followers are women, and so we want to cater a little bit of our content to them because of their support and because of their interest, like natural interest in mental health and those things as well. So
we've been often asked by people, are you trying to appeal to teens? Who's your target audience? And the answer is yes. We would love for teens to listen to podcasts. They don't. We would love if they did. But BrainStoke's goal and objective ultimately is to coach the coaches, to give ideas and to share ideas with parents, knowing that the coach in the home for mental health is the parent. What is their example in their proactive mental health? Are they exhibiting the S's in their own life so that kids can see that example and go, oh yeah, my mom is getting out 3 or 4 times a week and walking in the sun and being outside and doing those things. And that player coach approach to mental health is the proactive approach of just consistently living it on your own. So all that to say, DM, reach out, whether it's through our social media channels or whether it's our website. We would love to have women, teens, girls to become ambassadors of BrainStoke. It'd be awesome.
Please do.
I love that, Tom. And one just kind of an added point to that, and JT kind of mentioned it a little bit, is our initiatives and things that we've talked about for 2024 are going to go well beyond the podcast. It's going to, our social media will begin to take an additional format, but our activeness in the community ourselves, whether it's group rides or, teaming up with bike shops to hold little clinics or, one-on-one conversations or roundtables and things like that. I think we're going to definitely put ourselves out there for those opportunities for us to coach the coaches, but also engage with the kids, engage with such a broad audience. Runners, we hope to produce some more active apparel, not just cycling. We're all very cycling focused here. That's just, kind of what we do. But I'm one of the best things when I was training and racing full time that I love to do was get out and trail run, because I could just take my mind away from the structure and I could just go venture. And I want apparel that will do that. And so we're gonna produce stuff for that purpose. And whether it's just athleisure kind of stuff, we want to have the BrainStoke vibe all around, and,
totally.
And for people to feel comfortable to represent that no matter what they're doing and where they are.
Just getting outside,
yeah.
Getting outside, go to the gym, just being active is more kind of what we're about than just cycling is where we come from, but now we are in so many other things. We love to ski. We talk about it. We talk about running. We talk about going to the gym. We talk about all that stuff. So, if you just get out, getting your sweat, that's a pinnacle, or that's a column, I guess, of the BrainStoke gospel.
Yeah, totally.
Is just getting your sweat, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. Outside of just the ambassador program, we've been asked by people, hey, we want to help, the movement, so to speak, grow. When we're out working out or doing whatever, what do we hashtag? What do you want us to hashtag, in social media? The answer is hashtag BrainStoke, hashtag struggle and stoke, hashtag what else?
Something we got to nail it down. Getting your S's.
Yeah.
You know,
Get your S's
or 5 S's. Yeah, 5S.
Yeah, or just look good, play good.
Yeah. Or double click.
Such
double click on
posers.
that.
Double click.
Double
Hashtag
click.
double click.
Let's
on
double
that.
click on that.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's cool. Kev, you brought up community involvement, and that is a great segue for us to just talk briefly about our sponsors and the community sponsors. We're obviously not, there's no state lines, that surround BrainStoke, so to speak. We have followers in many different states. We actually, JT and I were looking at stats. We have international followers, which is kind of cool, to think through. Our premier sponsor, this year has been Aspire Medical and the Aspire companies. And as Aspire Medical goes through a brand change, which is exciting this up and coming year, Kevin has been huge, a part of that. He is the director of marketing for Aspire Medical. And, the first goal and objective he had there was rebrand. And so as that comes out this year, and that is announced, that'll be exciting for us at BrainStoke to be able to bring that along with us in the joint collaboration of BrainStoke and Aspire Medical's new brand, which is cool. BrainStoke will continue to grow and expand in our, sponsorship and those that are supporting, these initiatives that we're working on. You will hear as an audience as the year goes on, the sponsors that we are signing and hope to sign. Our goal and objective is to try to work with sponsors in partnership who have a vested interest in the health of the communities that we serve. And so if you're listening to this and you hear about this and you think, hey, I would love our company to sponsor, or I'd love our foundation, to sponsor BrainStoke, this is a soft solicitation to say, reach out. We would love that. It's been cool. So we have some outdoor brands and things that have said, just name it, and we want to get involved. So you'll see our, kind of, as the kits come out and as our apparel comes out, you'll see the brands that we partnered with, and we'll talk more about them as time goes on. But any other mention about sponsor opportunities or things we're doing?
Nothing much.
Yeah.
Send the check.
I'm
the check and
excited.
get featured.
This last year, when we started, in our first episodes, we said, who would be cool sponsors for us to have? Any dream sponsors that let's just throw it out there right now. Like, no one's paying us, but if we had like 2 or 3, like, who would they be? Preston?
Well, I would just list my favorite outdoor brands that I love.
Okay. Well, we've already hyped Envy.
Yeah, indeed we have. Well, where's Amber Sports? Where's Atomic? How come they're, come join the party.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm all on board with that.
Yeah.
These are all brands, that help us get outside and enjoy the sun and stoke and sweat. So, okay. Kev?
Man, I mean, obviously, gosh, the bike, the apparel, we need to capture the stoke. So GoPro. I mean,
Yeah.
Love it.
I always have a GoPro in my pocket. It's actually my backpack over there. But
Yeah.
why can't we spread the stoke visually?
Yeah. I love
Very
that.
true.
So the audio visual stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. It feels like that we need a drone sponsor. I don't know.
DJI.
DJI
Yeah?
would be nice.
Yeah.
What gets us all out of bed in the morning, the jet fuel that starts my workday at 11 p.m. on some of these videos. Monster Energy, please sponsor us.
I knew it. I assumed I was waiting for food to come from him.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Monster,
Totally.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Too.
We all love.
Maybe Maverick, because they could accommodate
Adventures first stop.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There we go.
Right?
Maverick,
I'll
come
take
on.
I'll take a nice nitro gas
I've
card for
tried.
sure.
Oh,
They're so tired of my solicitation. Come on. LinkedIn, work for me.
yeah.
I would love Maverick, totally. I have to admit this, when I think about brands, there are a few things that I put on where I'm just like, this is so rad. I just love this. And, this is it. Like, I have to admit, I am such a fan of Taft clothing, like the Taft boots and shoes and clothing. And And I love their founder. You know, I won't mention, you know, the name because I don't have permission, but Taft Clothing and Boots, they just announced this year they actually have their own line of mental health clothing.
Great looking stuff.
Oh, I think it's so rad.
Yeah.
They're not a sponsor, but Taft, how do we do this with you? Come on now. I mean, it just makes sense. It fits so well. So I think that would be cool. One that sticks, a couple that stick out from this year that I'm just like, we got to figure out a way to do something. So EV Auto, I think those guys are so cool.
I loved his
how,
episode.
Yeah, how they're innovating. Yeah. Alex Lawrence and his ownership team, what they're doing, you know, with the, you know, the electric auto industry, and they're disrupting, which we love, right? Just how do you think outside the box? And I love what they're doing. I think it's cool. Yeah. The other one that just stuck out because the dude has a heart of gold is Mountain Ops. Yeah. I just think that, Trevor Farnes and what they're doing, the Fishes and Loaves, you know, campaign, the feeding, you know.
Conquer Hunger is awesome. Yeah,
Conquer Hunger. It's just amazing stuff. So, I can see us doing some more with Mountain Ops and, you know, to JT's point about, you know, waking up. Yeah. Something about Ignite, right? I mean, just get that caffeine rolling early. Hard to get stoked unless your brain's on, you know, awake. So, those would be cool.
Yeah.
Other initiatives for 24.
I'm excited about our media production, just working with Kevin and stuff. Like, we've done a few projects. Like, you'll see kind of our now sister project is BrainStoke Media. You'll see our Instagram and stuff now. But, projects that we're producing that way of, like, more media production stuff, not just producing the podcast, but making videography videos and stuff like that. I'm excited for that in 2024.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe producing other shows as well. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
by the way, on that note, in terms of production, I was asked the other day, hey, does BrainStoke need some interns? Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah. I mean, if you are trying to nail down a summer internship or an internship this year, we've had a couple high school kids, you know, reach out. But if you're looking for a podcast or a media internship or, you know, business, whatever, entrepreneurship, we've helped a number of people, you know, over the years in those areas, and that's kind of our background. So, internship potential opportunities exist there.
Yeah.
JT, one bold 2024 goal. If we're sitting here 1 year from now and we're looking back on the year, we're doing this whole gratitude session, what if you knocked one thing down? Doesn't have to be related to the podcast necessarily. It could, but just one thing that you're like, I nailed that.
I really want to do the 40 episode mark. That's almost like that's pretty close to an episode per week with a couple gaps because the three people besides me have day jobs. Tom, not as much. But Kevin and Preston have day jobs, and I go to school.
What?
So.
I'm a house spouse. Why do you undervalue the house spouse population of the world?
No, that's very true. That's very true.
Yeah. Hashtag tied.
He's
send the check.
Except he won't say that his house spouse duties are my little brother. That's 13. So he's fine. He's fine to leave him. He's fine to leave him to go to Mexico for a week. But then when it comes to him, it's a job. So just saying, But no, for me, I want to do 40 episodes. I mean, that's related to the podcast, but I want to just grow. I'm amped to work with Kevin, especially on all of our apparel and stuff. We have some really cool ideas. So rolling out that for our spring line of stuff, and then a fall line of a little more kind of cold weather based stuff. I'm excited for that as well. So to design that and get that running, and then I'm sorry for anybody that is come in contact with it. Our website, I want to get that just a little better. Yeah, we can always work on something a little bit more. And now that we're more of a media production company and we're a mental health media company, showing off the cool things that we're doing, not just besides the podcast, but we've got our hands in a lot of pots right now, and to get those up and running is kind of my goal right now. Kind of working the machine behind the scenes.
Cool. It's awesome. It's a great goal.
Love it.
Kev, what about you?
Man, I along
Are
the
you
lines,
a goal guy?
Yeah.
Yeah?
A little bit. Yeah. I'd say I like I'm a free flower, but I do need some kind of behind the scenes structure that sometimes I don't tell people about, just because they're like, oh, you're a creative, you're all over the place. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But I'm in the back of my mind, I've like got certain checklists that help me prioritize my time. And that's what's most important to me, is because I am a creative, distracted daydreamer, and I can get lost in the woods here.
People don't get that about Kevin, honestly. You're like Christopher Nolan. But it's true. It's very true. Of like, people see like, oh, it's a very creative process and everything, but watching Kevin do his process is very rigid. And if you listen to actors talk about Christopher Nolan, it's very similar. Of like, he's very structured, it's very disciplined, but the product that you put out is of the highest quality. And so it's like, it's not as free flowing as you think, but it puts out the highest quality stuff. So
thank you.
It's very cool.
Very nice compliments. I love the idea of creativity and producing and documenting and putting it all together. The idea of when we go to record a podcast, that we're sharing things along the way, but we're also providing content for that specific person or company, the interviewee, that we give them a media packet that says, hey, thank you for your time. Here's some stuff that you're welcome to share. Would love for you to kind of share that and build that out to just kind of a cool benefit that people are like, wow, I want to be a part of that podcast to experience the media side of things and get that in return. I think that's just some added value that we have capacity to bring to people and to continue to share this message. Big thing I just want to be out and about and see, the Stoke on people's apparel, where you're, one of my favorite things, I would do it every now and then at my previous job, where I would design a cycling kit and put it out there for no benefit of me. I just like, hey, I designed these kits, this is what I wanted, and I'd open up a team store, and every now and then I'd run into somebody that purchased the kit. And I was like, wow, that's cool. And you see, something that you put out there, something you were excited about, which this podcast, this initiative, like, I am so excited to be a part of this, to share this message and to put that out there in a visual way, to share with people, and then to see it. Like, it's cool. Yeah, I want people to be a part of this ambassador program for the sheer greater good, and then to see that manifest itself.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Likewise, I mean, answer the question is just more awareness, recognition, eyes and ears on the mission of what we're trying to accomplish. Whether that's, can you imagine walking through an airport and seeing some merch on somebody else random, or you're wearing the merch and someone's like, "You listen to that podcast?" That
would be really funny if someone didn't recognize you. And they were like,
well, they might
I love BrainStoke, and they don't recognize you.
I mean, that would be a really fun thing to have happen.
Totally.
I'd look forward to something like that. The ambassador program and where it's going to go, where it has the potential to go, I'm hopeful that it becomes as great as we envision it to be.
I agree.
I think that it could be great. I've shared with the group some type of mental health conference, some ideas like that. I would love to see that happen. Maybe not 2024, maybe, but just those are some of the ideas that we've all shared and talked about that would be fun to see.
Maybe a live show
come together.
Who knows?
Ooh.
Yeah. Could be on the schedule. Who knows?
Very nice.
See if we could sell out the Delta Center.
Yeah. Kingsbury Hall is probably a little more in our price.
Maybe the
Kingsbury
Parowan Community Center.
There you go.
Yeah. There we go.
We got a lot of listeners in Salt Lake or in Ogden, so it's either Egyptian Theater or Kingsbury Hall. I don't know that we can get Delta Center just yet, but who knows?
It's awesome.
Kind of cool.
I actually have 3 things that I've thought a lot about, in terms of like goals for next year. One of them came from Dr. Jennifer Finlayson-Fife, who was a guest, on the podcast earlier this year, she shared an insight, a concept that has like haunted me, in a positive way, in a good way. And the concept was teaching people the difference between fitting in and belonging. And when I think about BrainStoke and what we're trying to do, the genesis came from Preston and I being on this bike ride together. We've talked about it before, and me expressing to him and him to me, like, why are kids so young choosing to end their lives? They've not even gotten to the best part, right?
Right.
Like there's so many great highlight moments of life. And in my opinion, many of them start to begin mid to later teen years into adulthood. That's when things really come together. And so it was this thought and feeling of like, what is going on when people feel such despair at such a young age that they don't see anything around them worth belonging to, right? And so Dr. Jennifer Finlayson-Fife, her concept that day was the difference of trying to fit in, right, to the masses, right? Think of social media. Like it's all about like, do I fit in? Do I appeal to the masses? But we also know this year, based on what the Surgeon General has described, is that, you have the highest levels of loneliness and depression and sadness in the history of the world. And so when you combine her concept of fitting in versus belonging, she described belonging as belonging to self, being comfortable in who you are and getting to the point where you can self-author your way into your own life instead of trying to fit in. And when you combine what BrainStoke is trying to do, which is proactive mental health, with this concept, I hope my goal when I look at the end of next year and look back, it will be that we have lots of parents who are coaching their kids, who are being the example of self-authorship, that they can now belong to self. Because when an adult can belong to self and be comfortable in their own skin, they then now can coach their children to do the same. That social media is the opposite of belonging. You can see it when it happens, right? Mm-hmm. When Oliver Gibbons said, "I smile and say hi," I believed him because he now is belonging to self. He does that. He doesn't just do it to be popular and post it online. He is belonging to self. And I love that idea of if one more person next year, grasps belonging to self, then that's a win. Yeah. One of the coolest things that happened to me, by the way, I love the idea of seeing apparel in public, but I also love the idea of it happening in the heart of people. They may never buy a thing, and one of the coolest things that happened this year was a recently divorced middle-aged dad reached out to me. He has 4 children. He and his wife are now divorced and they're living separate lives, and he's raising kids when they're at his home. And he said to me, "I just want to thank you because I'm now a single dad and I'm doing this on my own and I need coaching. I just need consistent good ideas that are positive to help me cope with now doing what I'm doing." That means 100 times more to me than having people see our kits, although I love it. Trust me. I want posh everywhere, I want all that stuff everywhere. I think it's awesome. But only if it is piercing people's hearts and minds to belong and to feel hope and ideas that are coming, to their life.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, and so I think that would be such a win if it continued to evolve. Preston used the word awareness. If it became more broadly aware, that BrainStoke is a podcast where I get ideas that are going to help me feel good and positive about my ability to cope with life, you know, the struggle and Stoke.
Yeah, Tom, on that note, real quick, I had a thought the other day. We're constantly talking about relevance, and especially in this social media age, and nobody understands what relevance is because it's based on what's trending. And we're constantly following these trends to be relevant. And generally, that's not who we are. I listened this morning, skiing, Rick Rubin was talking about, it was Metallica. I think he was recording an album with them, and they wanted to do kind of more of a pop like album, totally different than who Metallica is. And he's like, you're not being true to yourself. Just because that pop sound or that stuff was really popular at the time, and it was hitting, and it was kind of fresh to them and new, and they're like, we need to go down this route. And he was like, it's not going to hit well. This isn't who you are. And he said they attempted it, and it was just, they were never, thankfully, didn't go that route.
Yeah.
And they went back to who Metallica was and still is, and that's, you know, their relevance. And so we were so confused by that term of finding our own relevance and authenticity. And it's such a wonderful point to rewind, to go back to look inside ourselves and be good with that, be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, we use the word often throughout the year, you know, about mattering, you know, that we want people to feel that they matter. And, you know, that is universal. It's so basic, you know, which leads to my last goal. You know, businesses don't often talk transparently about how the business is going or what's going on or really what's the mission behind the mission. And it would be awesome at some point for this to be viable in terms of profitability and, you know, the ability to be self-sustaining and to grow. Just to be transparent to our listeners, you know, we have invested tens of thousands of dollars into this, into BrainStoke. And this now becomes personal to me, you know, as a mission and as a cause. There's something behind making the investment into something like this. And to be frank, it's a benchmark of how my humanity still shows up. You know, when I'm unwilling to give back or to stop reinvesting in the betterment of people, that says something about me. I don't feel good. And so Tom, as someone who's seeking his own stoke in life, I know that I have to give back and lift in order for me to make sure that I'm grounded in who I want to become. And so when I think about BrainStoke, it's deeply personal to me. It's an investment that I believe in. And if I want to continue, you know, to grow in my own humanity and where I want to become, you know, as the man I want to be, this is critical for that. You know, and so when I think about where BrainStoke is going in a year from now, what would my goal be? That we continue to make the investment in time. Am I willing to spend my time to give back to other people, not knowing what the return is? That's very valuable for me. The second is sometimes it's really easy to give time, and other times it's really easy to just write the check. I found that if I do both, then I'm engaged in it, and it's something that I value and that I own and I want to be involved in. And so when I think about that at the end of next year, if I'm willing to make the investment in time and resources, that's a good thing for me as a human, that I'm still staying grounded and connected to that. You know, am I willing to make those investments? And so, those are really long-winded goals for the year, but that's what I hope happens. You know, I hope that we get those private moments of feedback, like this is making a difference, you know? And then second, selfishly, that I'm still in a position and I'm sitting in a feeling of giving back, lifting others. I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think those are great, Tom. I mean, as I thought, someone came to my door yesterday, literally yesterday, and we visited, hadn't seen each other for several months, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, I love your podcast. It's awesome."
Nice.
And I wasn't expecting that one bit. And that's been a really rewarding thing, is to running into people that are listening and paying attention and have constructive criticism or feedback or ideas. That means they're engaged with what we're doing. And that I agree wholeheartedly 100%. That is the best part of it.
Yeah.
I want to just piggyback on your thought on Jennifer Finlayson-Fife's concept or idea of belonging or self-authorship. I put that into practice about a month ago and said some things verbally out loud that I've always questioned or wondered.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it with I shared it with somebody that, we were in the midst of an advice conversation. I said it out loud. And I felt amazing. And I went home and I shared it with my wife. And it was, I don't know how to explain it, but it just felt good to own something that I've never dared talk about before. And it's personal and we won't get into it, but it felt really freeing. And I appreciated being instructed and taught by Dr. Finlayson-Fife about that, because I put it into practice and it worked and it felt good. So I loved your goals. I think
that's so cool.
That's awesome.
Can I piggyback on what you just described about being transparent and being vulnerable to be able to say it out loud? So what's interesting about that is, and again, one of the other cool things, the feedback that came to us was a friend of Preston and I, JT knows him, Trevin Wallen, a dear friend, he should be the sponsor, of the BrainStoke podcast. He is anyway, but Trevin is such a great guy, and he's been a friend of Preston and I for a long time. Trevin reached out one day and he said, the coolest part of the podcast is I've gotten to know my own friends better because you guys talk on the podcast about things that we never do as guys, skiing or riding. I've spent thousands of hours with the guy. Mount Moran, like we lived in the, in the frigid tent together. And yet he hasn't known a lot of those things. And it was cool to hear him kind of describe that. And there's something about that this way of being on the podcast and the ability to share openly like this. I know that it's working for the guests that we have because it works for us.
Right.
The ability for us to kind of share openly and thoughts and feelings and those things. And so, yeah, I think that's cool. That's cool that, you took some of that from Finlayson-Fife and, and applied it. Anything else that you guys have applied from guests or things in your own lives just as you've learned it?
It's been cool to see since January, like the start of like episode 1, like if you go back and watch those episodes, it's so funny just to like see like how the show has changed, especially because it's like we were coming up with like, we were all nervous. I remember in the beginning of like the first episodes of like, okay, we have like a lot of the BrainStoke gospel, so to speak, like already laid out. Like we were kind of like amped on like John, like all of his stuff that we had talked about, like the 5 S's, like stuff that we had learned about like a month before, and that was like topical at the time. And then it's turned into this whole thing. But then to go through like each guest to see like the growth and stuff, and then like me, like in like daily conversation talking to like my friends or something about like something like Scott Mortons had said, and I'm like, oh yeah, duh, or like something that like Matthew Left Hand said. Or like something like throughout the 30 guests that we've had, or probably more than that because we've had more than one, but like seeing that and then seeing it come back in the show as like these like reoccurring themes and stuff. But like at the beginning, if you go, like I've watched the beginning episodes a couple times now just to go back and just change up a couple things and stuff to go back and like fix the audio and stuff. But I'll go back and be like, these were bare bones. Like really, like our BrainStoke gospel, so to speak, has been changed by the guests that we have. Like we've all grown in the past year, and then like you don't really see that because we hang out with each other like every week, but we do see like this subtle changes, and we were all there together, so we don't see it in each other, But to go back in the beginning and now see it now, it's just a very different. It's the same but different. It's just better. And so it's cool to see like how each guest has changed, and we're so thankful for the people that have come on, and we would love for you to come on again, or the new people that we'll have in 2024. But I'm excited. It's cool to see just the growth. You don't really get to see such a, I don't know, timeline of all that growth because we are the tree that's been growing. But to go back and look at like the seeds, it's cool. I don't encourage you to go back and watch like the first 2 episodes that are focused on just Tom or just Preston. They're great episodes. We should probably reshoot them because they're pretty scuffed. That was like when we were shooting on phones, and awesome. Preston had lost like 15 to 20 pounds, and now he looks freaking amazing. So we've just learned so much in the past year. It's fun to see. To go back and see those episodes and stuff. I'm sorry about the audio in the first episodes. It's rough. I need to go back and fix it. That's why I went back and to some of those episodes. It's all over the place. Now it sounds much better, but it's fun to see that growth that we've had in the past year, and I'm excited for the growth to happen in 2024.
Yeah, I hope that we get better at the craft of what we're doing.
Totally.
You know, I mean, interviewing people, dialoguing with people in and of itself is a skill. You know, I find myself watching those who interview now and kind of understanding with greater, you know, appreciation, like this is a craft, you know, and we are D-minuses. So hopefully in 2024, you know, we're at a C+. I don't know.
This show stinks, but we thank you for watching.
We do. We appreciate it from listeners who chime in. I hope that what occurs is less how are Tom and Preston doing, and is Jackson and Kevin delivering it all in a great way. I hope that people are genuinely chiming in and hearing the story.
Yeah.
Right? Because when guests are genuine in describing their own struggle, in fact, I don't know one episode where it hasn't become quite emotional.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just because it's a forum for people to dive into describing themselves, which is, in a lot of ways, is so rare in our world today, to really get people, you know, on a couch talking about their own struggle. There's power in it. So I'm stoked for 24. I think it's cool. I think it'll be amazing to see where this all goes, and I hope that people take the journey with us. So any other parting thoughts from anyone?
Thank you. Thank you for the past year. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please tune in for the next one. We're excited. We're going to put a lot of really awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, 2024 is going to be the year where I think we make some big strides in who we are and what we realize we have a capability to do.
Yeah. Preston, are you racing Lodija in 2024?
Oh my gosh. I don't dare say it out loud.
Say it on a recorded forum is a bold statement.
Yeah. More than likely.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Kev, do you have one big, audacious physical goal?
You know, I don't right now. I think I've kind of come to a mindset. Racing's a bit different animal for me these days, and the racing that I did this season became a different challenge that I can kind of go into depth, and it became a very almost a tougher challenge than it ever has been in the approach. But and so with that, I was like, man, maybe I don't want to race this year based on that. Full body wellness is always at the top of my mind, and there's a lot of things that I've made just some goals in the past week to a few months of things that I'm going to really stick to, and I can kind of manifest those and go into detail later as they develop. But my intentions have changed in approach, in communication, love, and just support for others who have given so much to me.
Cool.
So yeah,
that's awesome. JT, are you going to bench 225?
I lose when I say 2 plates. That's the goal. That's my goal.
2 plates.
2 plates. That's it.
Bro, you're so going to be sponsored by Mountain Ops.
I know. I need to.
Those guys
I need
are
to get in the gym with Trevor.
enormous.
you
He's
gotta
huge.
go to that gym,
Oh,
man.
my
He's big.
word.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks for having me along, guys. This is the Stoke is all-time high right now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Welcome to the club.
I'm not going to go public with a physical goal, but I promise I will soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to take it to the eagle.
Yeah, I was gonna
There you
ask.
go.
The Eagle's
Yeah.
gonna say
Take it to the
yes.
Eagle.
Let's go.
I know what the
You
eagle's
gotta
going to
get it.
say.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
There
Thanks,
you go.
everybody. Talk to you in 24.
No daily dose, or what?
You've had your daily dose.
There it is.
See ya.